Okay, so good morning. It is like 5 something in the morning, and we're gonna do a little like get ready with me vlog. But we're gonna be going over period 3 important figures this morning. I was gonna do it last night, but I fell asleep in my closet. So yeah, insert logo here. Okay, so once again, good morning. Say hey to my mirror. Hey mirror. It is pretty early, so I'm gonna be talking a little bit lower, so I might be a little bit like this to the camera. But essentially, period 3 is where we finally have some presidents, because at this time, America is like, it's finally like America. We just had a revolution, and we just got our Declaration of Independence, and we had our Articles of Confederation for a little while, but as the story goes, it wasn't really here to stay. And then we got our brand new Constitution, remember Sir Thomas Jefferson, and at this time, we kind of see the beginning of the emerging of our two political parties, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, which is so funny how they used to be together, to me at least. But we see those two coming together. And, you know, at the head of the Federalists, it's Alexander Hamilton, who is George Washington's right-hand man. Like, he's like, you need a Georgie, I got it, period. And then you have Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Constitution. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, the Declaration of Independence. Ignore that one, I said it. He's the author of the Declaration of Independence, and he's the kind of sort of the unofficial head, because I don't think he officially says he's Democratic Republican until later. But he says he's a Democratic Republican, and or he's but he just doesn't like Hamilton, and that's really all the beef. He just doesn't like Hamilton. Hamilton doesn't like him, and they're kind of like this mutual hate thing at this point. There's a lot. I need to turn it off. Oh. But speaking of these two men, they're both in our first president, George Washington's cabinet. But you know, Georgie W., he doesn't have a political party. So good morning to Harry. Yes, let's see Harry, and then say good morning to my sister's side of the room. It's really cute and artsy. That had nothing to do with anything, but so we, you know, George Washington, he's our first president. He has no political party, and he's making a lot of moves in his first presidency, setting a lot of precedents, like having a cabinet, and also 4-year terms, and being reelected on 4-year terms, because if you can recall, they really wanted George Washington to stay kind of as a kingly figure. And George is like, he's kind of like, well, you know, kind of already experienced this and hate it. And then the people are like, yeah, but like, you're so awesome, and we should call you King George, and you should do this. You should be forever. But of course, as you know, obviously, Georgie W. says no. So yeah, as the first president, just like for America also, we also have something going on in the financial sector because America needs to pay off its debts and America needs to have money. Right now, America didn't pay off its debts and doesn't have money. So it's up to George to like kind of figure that out because he is the president. And you have 2 financial plans, and you have, well, really just one, and it's Hamilton's. But because Jefferson didn't like Hamilton and didn't like what Hamilton stood for, he goes, this, I don't like it. I don't like it. And yeah, so that just creates chaos on Capitol Hill. But when it's not chaos on Capitol Hill, well, now, isn't it New York? Wasn't the first capital in New York, or was it in Virginia? Anywho, so this kind of creates some problems, and essentially the 2 financial plans really were Hamilton's financial plan was to establish a national bank and put some taxes on some heavily used things such as whiskey to get some revenue for the United States and also for the government to assume all state debts. And Thomas Jefferson didn't like this, of course, because he's Thomas Jefferson, who's kind of difficult, but also because he was like, Virginia, we don't have any debt. And to quote Hamilton, he said, our debts are paid, I'm afraid. Don't tax the South because we got it made in the shade. You just want to move money around. So pretty much he was like, hey, Virginia has no debts, which, wink wink, is because they have slaves and they don't pay slaves at all. And then, so then Jefferson's plan was to kind of keep America like as more so as individual states, because the whole argument of states' rights comes along, and states' rights is a booty hole. And he's like, we should just give them little state banks and they can, make it do what they do, figure it out. Because whatever. So it was up to George Washington to figure out what he wanted to do. I'm up for one shower curtain, so you might not hear me talk, so it'll be a little loud. And George Washington, of course, as we know, goes with Hamilton's financial plan and creates a national bank, and they start taxing things. And they do like a whiskey tax. And if there's anything you know about Americans, they love their alcohol, point blank, period. They love their alcohol, unless you're like a woman during the temperance movement, then you hate alcohol. And of course, yeah. So they tax whiskey. Whoop-de-doo. Not really, because this causes a lot of problems, and a lot of farmers are getting upset because they either make it or they drink it. So we had this little thing called the Whiskey Rebellion, where a lot of, people are protesting. They're like, no, we don't want this tax. And Georgie W.'s like, I don't really care. So this is the first, and I want to say only time a president marches off to battle and puts down an angry mob of people who are angry at his tax. And this in a way is kind of sort of the first exerting of federal power, because underneath the Articles of Confederation, the central government couldn't tax, and now they could, and people were upset about it. But now, George Washington, he's like, hey, this is what's going to be happening now, and you guys got to stop. Of course, the whiskey tax was repealed because, once again, Americans love their whiskey, and yeah, they just really love their whiskey. But this was just like the first time the federal government was like putting their foot down, because at first they were kind of just like they were pushovers, essentially. That's what they were pushovers. They were like, you know, we're not gonna do anything because we don't want tyranny, but now they're like, hey, we're not tyrannical, but y'all need to stop. So now I'm gonna take a shower and I'll see you guys after that. So we talk about our second president, John Adams. Okay, so it's after my shower, obviously, because I'm changed and I smell amazing. Though you really can smell me through the camera. But now we're gonna talk about our second president, President John Adams. He was a Federalist in Massachusetts, and I want to say that he was also the only Federalist to serve in office as the president. But essentially, his reign, I'd say a little bit of a reign, was a bit como se dice, wild. Okay, so John Adams. So after the American Revolution, France and America had they had a treaty, or essentially they were allies. But then the French Revolution happened, which actually, might I add, was inspired by the American Revolution, so great going French. And so then most Federalists considered that treaty to be null and void. So when a Federalist president gets into office, he's not going to really acknowledge the French people as allies or the treaty that they had to help them in need. But so anyway, Adams he's like, no, who are you? Who is she? And France gets really upset. So they break out into this little war. It's like a quasi-war, but it wasn't really a war, but it was a war. And the leader of France at the time says, hey, we'll stop beeping if you can send me a large amount of money. And he sends three agents, which they name X, Y, and Z, hence the XYZ affair. So for America, this damages the French and American ally, which we had during the American Revolution, which they helped us to win, might I add, and kind of sort of in a way strengthens our ties with Britain, whom we broke free from and whom most of the Federalists wanted an alliance with anyway. So as a result from these XYZ affairs, of course, you know, the newspapers and mad people are gaslighting the public, but also kind of telling them the truth. And they're like, hey, this dude's a poo-poo head and he doesn't really know how to run our country right and he sucks and blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And, you know, of course, John Adams, being a human, is like, I don't like this. But more in sort of a toddlerish way, being like, I don't like this, you know, throwing a tantrum. And then he goes ahead and he writes the Alien and Sedition Acts, which essentially is like, hey, you talk bad on the government, you're going to jail, and you might not even be a citizen anymore. And this is huge because, as you know, our First Amendment in our Bill of Rights is freedom of speech, assembly, and press. And I think protesting, maybe. So this back at home, this is a domestic thing, but this really damages the look of the Federalist Party as a whole. Because remember, he's like the only Federalist president. And so far he's gone and he's messed a lot of things up. So people are like, Federalists, yeah, they suck, you need to get them out. And this also damages the rep of John Adams, which, no. So, of course, in the upcoming election, he does not get reelected, you know, thank God, or, you know, dang it if you're a Federalist. but he does not get reelected for obvious reasons. So John Adams he looks like the bad guy. So our next president who comes in, Thomas Jefferson, so he comes in and he's like, John Adams sucks. Blah, what are you doing? Blah. But that's more for us to get into in our next video. So yeah. But anyways, this is our third video for period 3, and this time it is presidents and how they impacted America instead of just important figures trying to colonize a whole continent. But yeah, this is the end of the video for period 3. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye.